Oh, you're getting a call?
He's calling.
Potential spam.
I thought I told you to do not disturb. I said do not disturb me. Phone.
Do not disturb.
I'm disturbed enough.
I've got plenty of disturbance in my life.
Disturbances. By day 30, enough disturbances. in permanent do not disturb mode.
Yeah. Day 30, man.
Yes.
Wow. How are you feeling?
I feel like it's been 30 very long days. It feels like it just started and it's been lasting for forever.
I was trying to describe this to someone last night because, like, I feel like we're in the, like, slump of just miserable. Everything is terrible and it's really hard to get through. And I was like, why does it feel like this? Like, why do we have these feelings? And the only thing I could describe it as is like that moment when you're on a plane that's delayed and you have a really tight connection that you need to catch and you're like you're like about to get off the plane, but you can't control anything. Like you can't control when they open the doors. You can't control like
when you're sitting on the tarmac waiting
Yes.
to get out so you can go to your connection.
You can't control like the people in front of you that are like taking so long to like take their bags down.
The people that seem like this is their first day on an
Yes.
airplane.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have to like sprint to the gate and then like
Trevor Lee standing up immediately in the aisle and is like blocking you from getting to
Yes.
the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get there and like you have no idea to know if the door is open or closed to like the next plane, and then you get there and there's like that nice woman that's like, no, it's closed. And like that's the feeling every single time that they take a vote in any of these things, and there's like that tiny bit of hope inside of you that you're like, no, I'm gonna make it.
I'm gonna make this connection.
Like,
they're gonna hold it for me.
Like if I run fast enough, I'm gonna get there. They're gonna keep the door open, and like maybe they do every once in a while, but like mostly they don't.
Mostly they don't.
So it's like 45 days of that exact feeling.
Yes.
Like 10 times a day.
Yes. That's actually such a good metaphor.
Thank you.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it feels like. And then you're outside with like the bridal party trying to get to the bachelorette party, sobbing outside the
They're
gate.
sobbing.
It's just you with like the trans people and the immigrants, and we're all crying together. Yeah,
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And you have this like weird camaraderie with the other people that are like in this like miserable situation together. But
yes, everyone's in the pain cave together.
No, but it is a unique form of torture,
Yes.
I think. And like there's so much that you can't control. There's so much that's going on behind the scenes that you don't have any influence over.
We don't know what air traffic control is.
No. Yeah, but you can't control any of it. And like there's some things that you can control, like how fast you're running and like how much you're doing,
And
but
how
like
loud you're yelling.
yeah, but otherwise like it just feels like you're just like on this roller coaster that somebody else is in control of, and like
Yeah.
it's tough. It's
And
very tough.
I think too, though, I think that's hard is that the exhaustion is part of the strategy
Yes.
in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But yeah, it's exhausting, and it's exhausting for us to follow it and to watch it and to be in community with people that are being affected, but like also acknowledging that a lot of the things that are happening in the session are hard for us because we are people that care about other people, but a lot of this will not directly affect us. And like, I can't even imagine what it feels like for people that are being directly targeted, that
Yes.
their healthcare, their livelihood, their access to, you know, support and services is being stripped away. And that sucks for us to watch, but it's even worse to experience, I would very much imagine.
Yeah. Which is a good point. I mean, so we want to talk today about a specific committee hearing and what went down, the bill that was being heard, and some context.
Do we need to say who we are first?
Oh, sure.
The two ticketed passengers that are missing their flight are here with you today. I'm Gabby Finlayson.
And I'm Jackie Morgan, and this is what the hell is happening on
Utah.
day 30 of the legislative session. So yeah, today we want to talk a little bit about some of those extra intense moments, and in particular one committee hearing that really got to us this week. Mm-hmm. And we want to, I don't know, we're trying something new here. We like don't know what this podcast or YouTube situation is going to look like, but as we were seeing this committee hearing this week, and Gabby and I typically sit next to each other at a desk all day as we're watching these things, and we have commentary and dialogue, and then it typically will lead us into a rabbit hole where we end up doing so much research on one random specific thing. And so we wanted to take you on that little journey with us today, because there is some insane rabbit holes that we went down on this bill.
Yeah, and by we, it really is Jackie. For the purposes of this podcast, I have quarantined my brain from, you know, after this committee hearing, which I have seen, And then after that, Jackie was like, no, I'm going to do the research. Like, we're going to talk about it. And I am excited but horrified to hear about what's going on.
And I have some tidbits for you, man. Okay, so we want to go through one particular committee meeting that happened this week, specifically the Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice House Committee, where Trevor Lee presented a bill, HB 88, that we're going to talk about a lot more in depth. But I think what I want to say about the committee meetings before we get into it is like, this is one of the only steps in the process where legislators have to actually sit there and listen. And like, they don't have to do anything, but they have to sit in the meeting and they have to listen to people who tell them, this is what the bill does to me. This is what the bill does to my family. This is what the bill does to my patients or my clients or whoever it affects. And like, it's one of those like shining spotlight moments during the session, I think, for a lot of bills, because it is when we get to hear the real stories, and the stories are what actually move legislators.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they've gotten very good at like finding ways to not listen to people in those too.
Yes, they do. You will see them doing a lot of scrolling, a lot of side chatter, a lot of them walking out of the committee meeting.
But also limiting public comment,
Yeah,
like
100%.
limiting the time that they're able to come, the amount that they're able to speak, what time of day they're having the committee hearings.
The number of people they allow to speak.
Yeah. So they've gotten good at trying to ignore people as much as possible. But it is the time where those personal stories, like, they really are impactful. They really move people. And I think it's extra hard to like have to go through that committee hearing and then watch them vote yes on the bill.
For sure. Yeah, and it's always shocking to see that they are still able to fall in line with the way that they're supposed to vote or think that they're supposed to vote after hearing that. The other thing that's interesting that not every committee has, but this one did, and a lot of the big controversial bills will do, is they will very intentionally give equal time to people that are for and against the bill. Sometimes that doesn't exist. Sometimes there's only people that are there to speak in favor or against it. But like for this one, they initially said, we're going to take 7 people, right? Like 7 that are pro, 7 that are opposed. Even if the vast majority of the room is opposed to a bill, they will still hear equal testimony on both sides, which is really interesting because that's not really, I don't know, like that's not really like fair. It's not a real representation of how people feel. They're just trying to give themselves cover, it seems like sometimes, to say like, well, you know, we heard from people that are pro and against, so I guess we'll just vote for it.
Yep. Yeah. So Trevor Lee walked into this committee hearing.
He slithered
in to present a bill. And now I want to give you an opportunity to choose your own adventure here. Would you like to go down a rabbit hole of some background on Trevor Lee and his greatest hits? Or do you want to talk about why he was in a bad mood walking into this committee hearing?
We're going to do both at some point.
Yeah, we're going to do both at some point.
Okay. I think let's talk about his background and how we got here.
Okay.
Before we talk about why he was in a bad mood. If I was Trevor Lee, I'd be in a bad mood every day.
Well,
yeah, let's start with who Trevor Lee is, because a lot of people, I think, know that he is one of the worst legislators.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't know the extent of why that is the case.
Which I learned some extra fun facts about him. All right. Trevor Alfred Lee.
Trevor Alfred Lee.
Yeah.
What a guy.
So he was only first elected in 2022, and he started his first legislative session in 2023. I cannot believe that it's like only been that long. I feel like he's such like a figure in the legislature. And he famously ousted an incumbent representative at a Republican convention. So Steve Handy was a very moderate representative in Davis County, and
very well liked, I think, by a lot of people on both sides.
Yes. Yeah. And he, at a Republican convention where like probably less than 50 people voted in that election,
for sure,
he ousted him. And it was a whole thing. Steve Handy tried to run a write-in campaign. Like, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Do you know what he does for a living? Trevor Lee?
No, I actually don't.
Okay.
Is he an ICE agent?
That would fit. So he is supposedly a wealth manager.
What?
No idea. I would like you to read his bio that is listed on the legislative website, or part of it.
All right, from the website. His professional background includes owning a wealth management company and consulting for businesses. This diverse experience has equipped him with the practical understanding of the financial challenges faced by small businesses and families. How is that diverse experience? Wealth management companies and other businesses?
Well, it's unclear. So here's where it gets
I
fun.
would not trust him with any financial decisions whatsoever. But okay.
Yeah. So the legislators all have to fill out a conflict of interest form on when they file for office.
Yes.
And do you want to know who he lists his employer as?
I hope it's the business that he says he runs.
Home Depot. He works for Home Depot.
What? His employer is Home Depot? Is that real?
Yes. So when he first filed for office in 2022, his employer was Home Depot. He has since...
Look, no shade to people that work real jobs. I mean, shade to Home Depot for all of their decisions that they've made and their political donations, but like... What?
So he lists his job as HDE sales executive, which I had to do some research on. Okay. But from what I could tell is like it's not a home, like he doesn't work in a Home Depot. He goes to people's houses to like sell them Home Depot like services. What? Yeah.
The hell?
Yeah. So
okay.
So that was his job when he first started. In 2023, then afterwards, on his disclosures, he started his business.
Oh, good. Okay.
Lee Financial Services.
Okay. From Home Depot to wealth management.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. That seems like a normal career path.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then he and his wife, Caitlin, have 5 children.
He has a wife and 5 kids?
Yeah.
He has 5 kids? 5 sparkling white children?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't know he had a wife. God, that poor woman.
Which... in the committee meeting that we're going to watch later, Ken Ivory does say to Trevor Lee, you need to keep having children so that you can bring them here and we can all hold them and hug them.
Oh, God. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that when
there.
we get to that.
We'll get there.
Jesus.
Okay.
5 kids. That means I need to have at least 5 kids to counteract the votes of those 5 kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good to know.
I want to now just take I am going to rapid fire go through some of his greatest hits in the 3 years that he has been in office. Oh my God. I just need you to know this is only 3 years. Okay, so this is the same legislator who responds to constituent messages by saying, quote, you're just being a baby, grow up. Also
responding to a constituent?
Yeah, no punctuation in that.
You're just being a baby, grow up.
Yeah, somebody posted that on Reddit and I like a screenshot of their text with him, which is incredible.
He should grow up.
He should grow
being
up.
A baby.
Insane way to respond to a constituent.
That's awful. Yeah, that's horrific.
You might remember last year that he ran HB 77, which banned pride flags in government buildings and schools in our state.
Remember that. Well, last year, part of the conversation when he was presenting this bill in committee allowed for historical flags to be used in schools, which did include the Nazi flag.
Yep.
Which he did not see as a problem, where you could not have a rainbow flag that is also historic, mind you, to teach people about what the gay rights movement was. Mm-hmm. But we can talk about the Nazi movement in Germany because that's more historic.
Educational.
Right.
Yes.
So let's not educate people on civil rights.
He eventually did give in to taking that out, thank God, but
that's what he wanted in there.
If you want to know how he actually feels about this, in an interview, I think to KSL, he said, if I go talk to a lot of my friends who are black...
Oh, please show me one black friend that Trevor Lee has.
If I go talk to a lot of my friends who are black, they'd be like, yeah, man, I don't agree with all that LGBTQ stuff. You see the black and brown now in the LGBTQ flag. I'm like, that's embarrassing. You wouldn't want to be associated with those people.
What? Okay. Several thoughts. This is incredible. Okay, 1, Trevor Lee has no black friends.
No.
I will tell you right now, that's not real. That's like outside of maybe Burgess Owens, who is not his friend. I do not think that exists. Secondly, this is why we need to teach history. The black and brown stripes that exist in the sort of like newer pride flag is called the Progress Pride flag. The one that that one that you can see. That does not represent black and brown people. That is not what that means. So we can start there.
Yeah.
You should understand what's going on. Also, you can't just see the colors black and brown and be like, those people. I know those people.
This is the same person that also called Pride Month satanic.
Well.
Well.
To him, it probably is.
Yeah. Yep.
And it should be.
And so... we have a lot of this information because Trevor Lee used to run a burner Twitter account at Ballin Lee.
He learned that from his black friend.
the name Truth Seeker was his name.
This is so embarrassing.
This is his anonymous Twitter account.
This is so embarrassing. Keep going.
So he used this account to post like anti-LGBTQ hate conspiracies. He called the governor spineless for supporting trans kids. Incredible.
Agree, the governor's spineless. Disagree on the reasons.
And he used a lot of slurs and posted a lot of like racist content. So first of all, on this Twitter page that he ran, the background of his page, what's that called? Like your cover picture?
Yeah.
It was the 13-star Betty Ross flag, which represents the first colonies.
And the Betsy Ross flag also, my understanding, is that it's been overtaken by like white supremacist far-right people to kind of represent the white people that established the first 13 colonies.
Correct.
Is like the way America should be. It's like a white supremacist thing.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
So now, and then it also had his profile picture was an umbrella that, you're going to love this, was said on it, fam proc.
No, the Mormons.
And it was, the umbrella was shielding a house that said the family from a rainbow.
Yeah. Right.
The fam proc umbrella. There's so many layers to this that I need you to explain a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. There's probably more to this, but as the resident Mormon of the team, let me help explain.
Mm-hmm.
So the family proclamation was this proclamation, quote unquote, that the leaders of the Mormon church put out in the early 2000s, is my understanding. And this sort of, so what it says, it establishes a lot of things, but one of the things that it says is that marriage is divine and like ordained by God between a man and a woman, and you're supposed to have kids and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and traditional gender roles in the family.
Yes. And they started doing this after they put out this proclamation in the early 2000s.
It was 1995, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, in 1995. So after they put that out, they did this around the time that the marriage equality movement was making some progress. And in order for the church to be involved and to claim that marriage equality is against their religion, they had to make it very clear that it was part of the doctrine and part of people's everyday lives. And so when they put out the family proclamation, they encouraged members of the church to print it out and hang it in their houses as like a way to symbolize this as part of their culture. Yeah. And that still exists across the board in almost every Mormon house you'll go to. And this is not a thing that most Mormons know, that it was because of this legal pushback to marriage equality that the family proclamation exists. Yeah. And so then putting that fam proc on an umbrella that's shielding the traditional family from the gays is like the most perfect representation of actually what the family proclamation is supposed to do. And it's like, bro, you are telling on yourself right now by having that graphic up. But I digress.
Yeah. And then he also used a lot in this the hashtag DesNat, which is short for the Deseret Nation movement.
Des Nation.
Which is a far-right, self-appointed defenders of doctrine. Yes. And they're LDS fundamentalists, like, online movement. And they're pretty famous for harassment and bigotry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, calling people out, doxing people, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. There's, like, crazy stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's, like, the very dark underground Mormon stuff.
So this is where he lives, in this like internet space.
Great.
So some of his famous Twitter activities here. So he liked multiple replies to a post by Charlie Kirk about prominent Black women saying that they have a low IQ. And that post was about Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
What? I thought Charlie Kirk was so good and he just wanted to have civil debate.
No. Black women have a low IQ, according to them.
That's horrifying. For so many reasons, but okay.
He said, this is what happens when past policies to incentives. So it's like past policies to incentivize, I think is what he meant, to incentivize foreigners and not protect your culture run unchecked.
Ah, yes. The foreigners are what ruined America, though every person that is here that is not native is a foreigner.
Yes.
Ruined America.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Yep. He used slurs like tranny on podcasts and social medias, even after he publicly apologized for it after the backlash.
And then he was like, I didn't know that was a slur, which if you're this deep on the internet, you know that's a slur. And then he like doubled down, right?
Yep. He did say that BYU was a progressive cesspool and that it needs to be cleansed.
BYU?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally normal. He promoted a lot of 2020 election fraud claims. He also like mocked teachers and said that they should be paid less and mocked their job security.
Right.
He attacked women in public life for their looks, multiple of them, but in particular, he called Jill Biden a dog.
Well, I'm sure he said some wild shit about us behind closed doors.
Yeah. He also shared a video of peaceful Muslims walking in Taylorsville.
God, yeah.
And he added this text that was like, it was a threat.
Yeah, these were just like people going to their religious services, right? Or
yes.
coming back and forth from that.
Yeah.
They were just walking down the street, doing their thing, hanging out like everybody else does.
And then he said, quote, not a single American flag in sight.
Who carries a flag on their way to church? Does he do that?
Probably.
Who is doing that? No one does that.
And then when people got angry about it, he just said it's just a video. And then people asked him if he would meet with the Muslim community after that. And he said, I guess, I just don't know what for.
Okay. As an aside, we are very, very well aware that members of the Utah legislature, particularly Republicans, do not like our videos at all. They watch a lot of them and they have a lot of feelings about what we say about their legislation and about them. The next time someone says that, especially if it's Trevor Lee, I'm going to tell them it's just a video.
Yeah, it's just a video.
It's just a video.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's horrifying.
And then the thing that makes me maybe the most angry about Trevor Lee of all of that is his lack of capitalization on almost everything. His tweets, his financial disclosures, his wife's name on his conflict of interest form.
He just doesn't capitalize any letters?
Well, he does randomly. Like, you know how Trump like capitalizes
Sure.
everything for some reason?
Uh-huh.
And he does it like kind of the opposite. Like he tends to not capitalize anything. Like he's like a Gen Z kid that doesn't have it on his phone. But then like randomly words should not be capitalized. This is the thing that makes me the most angry.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Yeah. So that's Trevor Lee. So this is the man that walked into this committee hearing. We're going to talk a lot about compassion the rest of this podcast, but that man does not have compassion. No. I just want to say for the record.
No, not an ounce of it.
Yeah.
So this man, this white supremacist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, pretty much any phobic you can think of, walks into the committee hearing to present this bill.
That's a good start of a joke.
This is a joke. He is a joke.
So the context of this meeting, I do think, is important because Trevor Lee has not been having a good session. Yeah. Clearly, he's done something to piss off leadership. And I think that there's a number of things, but we have some examples. So first of all, right before session, he made a ton of news because he opened a bill file that would have renamed Harvey Milk Boulevard to Charlie Kirk Boulevard. Right. Not only is that messed up for so many reasons, but it also is it usurps local control and it gives the state entire power over city streets, which is a whole problem.
A huge fight that is not substantive.
Yes.
Like the way that the legislature targets communities and groups is by really structurally fucking them.
Yes.
In like a real way. This doesn't do that. It's just a fight for the sake of performance.
Yes. Which they actually sort of don't like.
Yeah.
And so he made a ton of press with this attention-grabbing bill before session, but it has not moved out of rules.
No, it hasn't.
And so it's clear that this is not a priority for leadership. They're probably pretty upset that like he started off the session with that tone because it did piss a lot of people off and like is a really bad thing. But they also probably don't like it. There's like plenty of internal strife. And so
for sure. Well, and Trevor Lee too, I think like leadership in the Republican Party in the legislature, I guess and across the board, they have to know
yes,
that he's bad for the brand of the party. Like,
correct.
By being so outspokenly and like overtly offensive and awful, they have to know that that's bad for the brand of the Republican Party in Utah. Because we can point to this person and say like, this is what the party stands for. That's bad for normal, quote unquote, normal, moderate Republicans or Republicans in leadership who are just trying to get things done quietly and not deal with people like Trevor Lee.
And when you're so extreme that you're ruining their actual priorities and their actual like foundational beliefs. Like I truly believe that most of these Republicans believe in local control. Yeah. And so like they probably don't agree with the taking over the city streets and naming them part of the bill. Yeah. So like it is tough. So that bill has not moved at all, which is, real sad for him. He also had a bill that was banning social and emotional learning in schools. Yeah. That bill was killed in committee.
Yep. The ivermectin bill was killed in committee. This bill that would have allowed anyone to go to any pharmacy and there's just a standing order for ivermectin, so anyone could get ivermectin without talking to a doctor or anything.
Yeah.
Also killed in committee.
And then his bill that would have waived the class that parents have to take before they can exempt their children from vaccines before they go to school also died in committee.
Yeah. Taking a lot of L's.
So we also ran a bill for pregnant women to get a handicapped parking pass while they're pregnant.
Yeah, which I think we initially saw and we didn't really flag because, like, okay, whatever.
Fine.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, if that's all it did, right? Like, okay,
yeah.
I think that makes sense.
So you just, we're going to watch them this committee hearing because it was just entertaining in a lot of ways. But you would think the rationale behind this, like, why would you run this bill?
To help pregnant women be able to have more accessibility in their everyday lives because it's really hard to be pregnant.
No, Gabby. This bill is to help with fertility problems in the state in order to expand our families.
What? Wait.
Well, more women will want to get pregnant if they can get a parking pass and they get to park up front. The words park up front were told so many times during this committee meeting.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. But more women will therefore get pregnant.
Okay, I'm not going to sit here as a woman and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I want to have kids. It's really expensive and the political climate's really bad. And also
we have arsenic and the Great Salt Lake and my children can't breathe or go outside for recess.
School, we have no gun control in this state. Like, there are a lot of reasons that I have thought about, like, do I actually want to have a kid? Having the opportunity to have a temporary handicap pass would not incentivize me to have more kids.
No.
If I was already pregnant, would I be like, hell yeah, I'm going to get one of those parking passes? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but then it gets interesting because there's a lot of disability advocates that speak in this meeting and say, like, they don't have enough.
Yeah, there's already not enough.
And then one more thing before we get into it. The way Trevor Lee in this meeting describes women being pregnant, because obviously he's an expert.
He's had 5 kids. Actually, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. His wife has had 5 kids.
So he says in this, that this bill, it will actually help women who have multiple kids because they need to be going to the grocery store, and that's helpful because they need to get out of the house.
Oh.
Okay.
These women do be shopping.
They need to get to the grocery store with their multiple kids.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Are we doing this on 1X?
Yeah, we're going to do it on 1X.
Yes.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah. Okay, ready?
1, 2, 3, play.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Committee, for having me here today. The bill that I have before you it's actually a really simple bill. And essentially
he
what
just
this
looks
does
like
is
a
it
white
allows
supremacist.
those
I can't
that
explain
are
it.
pregnant
He just does.
to,
He should be an ICE
if
agent.
they
It would
would
be a
like,
better career for
pay
him.
$15 to receive
working at Home
a
Depot?
parking
Yeah.
pass.
He could
where
go
you
back
have
to Home
handicap
Depot as an ICE
spaces
agent.
throughout the state of Utah. And so that's how the bill works. It's very simple. You can go to the DMV, snag the permit for $15. It's temporary. Once you have the baby, it's gone. And so it's a temporary pass that can help, hopefully, in my opinion, show that we're supporting families, we're supporting those who are trying to have kids, trying to have bigger families. If you've had your own kids and you're pregnant, you know how hard it is. I personally don't, but I watch my wife struggle with this when she goes to the store and she needs to get up, handle all the kids, and try to get inside. And so this is something that would hopefully give her a shorter distance to go so a kid doesn't run out and get hit by a car. Also helps herself get out of the house, which I think is a good thing. And I believe we need to keep doing more policies in our state to help incentivize and help those who want to have big families.
You need to go to the
grow
grocery
and
store.
expand. We definitely have a fertility crisis in this state, and it's something that is a simple bill, but can make a good little difference to show we support families that want to grow and have those kids. So that'll end my presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Sure. We'll open it up to committee for discussion. Representative Okerlund.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Okerlund, a moderator
Have you
from Sandy.
had conversations with advocates for people with disabilities, and what is their input on this bill?
Great question.
Yeah, so they have said that they don't have enough parking right now for those who are disabled, and so they would want to be able to add an additional stall or additional parking if possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just wondering, is there some chance this might violate the ADA because the whole parking space thing is tied to the ADA?
Probably.
We would subject ourselves to some sort of federal intrusion if we try to do something like this.
Like, hey guys,
this might violate federal law.
Good question, Mr. Chair. So I have spoken with some of these agencies back in D.C. on these laws, and they didn't say it would infringe at all. Like, this is something that we can do. We offer temporary permits to others who have, had surgery, been in accidents that aren't like permanent type disability parking. And they're allowed to park in the
He's so
handicap
well-versed
spaces. So
on
this would just be
disability.
added
Yeah, I
into
know.
that as a temporary option on top of those who also are, temporary for there.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Representative, I need to know if this isn't a blatant conflict of interest for all the cute kids you're going to continue having.
Disgusting.
So my wife's currently not pregnant, so she can't get the pass, but she would have loved to use this when she was pregnant.
We're expecting more, and we want
Ew.
to hold them, the
Ew.
grandpa duty.
Ew.
Let us know.
All right.
Ew,
talk about
ew!
this.
I would
Dominguez.
never let Ken
Thank
either
you.
hold my child.
So I have a
just
question.
need you to
I
know that.
Never.
Motherhood
None
is
of
a
these
journey,
people are
and
holding my
postpartum
child.
is probably one of the most important parts that I would think this bill
Rosalba
would
Dominguez,
include.
Democrat from
Maybe a month
Murray.
or two afterwards, or at least 6 weeks afterwards.
So as limited as possible is what I'm aiming for. And specifically, when you're a mother, those last few weeks, those last few months of the pregnancy are rough. And I want to make sure that that's that time period when they are getting out, they're going to the store, they're going
Classic. We're
places
still
that
going
they
to the
feel
store.
like, especially on
Is
that
that
long
all
walk
that
to get into
women
the
do
store
is
is
go to
just easier
stores?
for them.
Correct.
But you're exactly right.
Also, if you
I
were
wish
about
maybe
to
if we
give
had an
birth,
additional stall
why
for
would-
just mothers that had a bunch
Trevor,
of kids.
why are you not helping your wife?
Maybe you have like an HOV
He wants an
lane type
HOV
thing.
line.
You know,
If you
too
have
many
multiple kids, you can park up front now.
But
Too.
I think the walk for them at that point's good.
Have any idea how many, what percent would would do that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I have zero clue.
No idea.
No idea.
But I would hope that it's used, if they are, as just a small, simple tool for those who really want it. I believe they will go get it, and it will be very helpful to them.
Yeah. I mean, a lot to be said about that committee hearing. I think, fundamentally, the most important thing that you need to take away from this is that, one, Trevor Lee is fundamentally a bad legislator.
He's not good at this process.
He's just not good at structure. There are things that are really important to understand as a legislator, and we see this all the time. What does your bill do? Who are the stakeholders that you talk to? Can you answer the questions? And what are the biggest impacts outside of the focus of this proposed bill on other areas and aspects of the state? And he very rarely can answer any of those questions in his committee hearings, which is partially why his bills get killed, on top of the fact that they're really extreme and just they don't do anything productive. And that he apparently does not help his wife whatsoever raise their children, and that she needs to take all 5 of
Go
their
to the
children
grocery store.
to get out of the house.
Yeah,
You know?
all women need to.
Yeah. I'm sure that he seems like the kind of guy that says that he's taking care of his kids, but he's babysitting his kids.
Oh, for sure.
My biggest red flag about that.
Well, no, speaking of him being a terrible legislator, the last bill we can talk about that put Trevor Lee in a bad mood before this committee hearing was another bill that was honestly a good bill to begin with. It allowed people to register to vote when they were getting hunting and fishing licenses.
Yes.
This one, it sped through committee with, I think, bipartisan support.
It's just a normal good idea. If
Sure.
you're going to get a fishing license, you should be able to also register to vote. Sure.
Great, whatever.
You're
I mean,
involved
we'll
in-
register more Republicans, but that's
Whatever.
fine.
I don't
I'm
care.
supportive of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is the initial bill. It passed through committee. Pretty little controversy on it, actually. And then it got to the floor and he introduced a new substitute. And the new substitute had this whole other thing that totally changed the bill.
Which is also just bad legislation. You should not introduce a structurally different bill between the committee and the floor, but
Yeah.
sure.
So
I digress.
this substitute would have allowed the lieutenant governor, without consulting with the lieutenant governor, by the way, to contract with third-party data companies to share all of the voter data across the board.
Why? Why would you do that?
Palantir. I don't know.
Yeah, fundamentally a bad idea. You know what gets hacked all the time? Third-party companies.
Yeah. So it totally changed the bill. It added this whole other thing. And then on the floor, the debate was interesting because it was clear that another legislator, another House member, had come to him and said, I really want to do this thing. You should just stick it into your bill, Trevor. Just sneak it in there. It'll be fine.
No one will notice?
No one will notice. It'll be cool. And so
Interesting. I
he
didn't know
did.
that.
Yeah, so he added it in, and it clearly wasn't actually something that he really wanted. He just was trying to maybe work together with another
He's trying to
legislator.
whip some votes.
Yeah. And so it did pass off of the floor, and then
Did it really?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
it passed off the House floor, and then it moved to the Senate committee, and it got executed in the Senate committee. It was one of the best legislative committee meetings I've ever seen, because all these senators were like, why would you do that? This is a different bill. Why would you add something crazy into it? And I have, like, Mike McKell was like, this is like the thing that concerns me the most in the world, basically. And so it got slaughtered in committee by these Republicans. And he had to sit there quietly, like sad boy Trevor in his little chair, and just be like eaten alive.
This is the one nice thing, I guess, about the Senate and the House. So they in every state and even at the federal level, House representatives and senators have very different egos about their work. I think coming from the House, there's just so many more people. They represent fewer people. It's just different. And then in the Senate, people always have way bigger egos. They think they're way more important. They care a lot more about process in a way that's really interesting, just like as a body. And so it's incredible that probably the biggest reason this bill did not pass out of that Senate committee is because he's a bad legislator and offended the delicate sensibilities of these senators by just doing the legislative process poorly. Which is great.
It's incredible.
Take him down.
They voted to table the bill in Senate committee, which is like the worst version that they can do. It like they typically will hold it or move to the next item on the agenda, but this one they like actually said like,
it's
no, your bill
back.
Is like dead. Yeah.
Yay. Shout out. Sometimes we agree with these people.
So you could see why Trevor, he's not having a very good session. He's not in a very good mood. He is like struggling to get any of his bills across the finish line. And like, this is also why we thought that this bill wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, this is the problem with you and I being optimists in general, is that we always have way more faith in these Republicans at the Hill, that they will do the right thing every once in a while, especially on these bad bills. And then almost every time we get disappointed. Every once in a while we're right, but yeah, it sucks to be optimistic.
It really does.
Just get let down a lot. But yeah, so HB 88.
Yes, let's talk about the bill. So HB 88, we are now on the fifth substitute, which is another sign of Trevor Lee's inability to legislate, because he is making so many changes to the bill and nobody can really track what's going on or what it does anymore. So it's off to a really good start. But this bill would strip all of Utah's existing exemptions from immigration verification requirements and prohibit any state agency from providing non-emergency medical health care, local or state administrated health care, health insurance, housing assistance, food assistance, cash benefits, tuition assistance, or any state or locally funded assistance programs to anyone without lawful presence in the United States. So if you are an undocumented immigrant, or in a lot of cases, a mixed status family, you are not able to get access to any assistance that is state funded. So that would include WIC, you know, the program for women and children,
It's
like
literally
pregnant
called
mothers.
WIC, which stands for Women, Infant, and Children.
Yeah, you know, and I thought that he wanted to help pregnant women.
Yeah, what happened to helping pregnant women?
No, we let them park up front.
Only the white.
It would be no state health care, no tuition assistance, no immunization through public health measures, no communicable disease testing or treatment.
Testing?
Uh-huh. No food banks that receive state funds. And
Which is every food bank.
Insane, because in those food banks, they would need to then split their food that is like state funded food and then charitable donation food, and they would have two piles. And if they ever messed up, like if ever one person drew from the wrong pile, they would be able to be fired and have a lawsuit against them.
So yeah, the way that I understand is that any tax-paying citizen could sue anyone that's a state employee that gave any sort of assistance to an undocumented person.
Yes.
Using a state tax dollar.
Yes.
Which is insane for so many reasons, but I'm sure we'll get into. But.
Yeah. So then no housing assistance, no crisis counseling, no homeless shelters, no domestic violence shelters, and no state CHIP coverage for the only up to 2,000 children who are currently getting healthcare from the state, which, by the way, they passed the state coverage CHIP requirement or CHIP bill in 2023.
Oh,
like
wow.
The exact same legislators that are up there right now decided to provide care to undocumented children to get healthcare. And now they are changing their minds.
This is like very directly attacking sick, poor, hungry children. To be really clear about this.
Yeah. So how I want to frame the rest of this conversation is also how Trevor Lee decided to frame it in his presentation of the bill.
I want to start by sharing a quick quote that I think hits it really, really well. And that is, compassion stops at the door of irresponsibility.
As a reminder, he didn't say what this bill did at all in committee.
He did not present the bill at all.
But he started his testimony by saying, compassion stops at the door of irresponsibility. What does that mean to you, Gabby? Compassion stops at the door of irresponsibility.
In a normal context, or in the context that he's using it?
And just a normal context.
I don't know that, we as people should not feel bad for people if they have made decisions in their life that are irresponsible. People that have made choices that got them to where they are today do not deserve compassion from other human beings. Which I think is fundamentally incorrect.
Yeah.
I think that there are people that do bad things, and those bad things that impact other people, they should be held accountable for those things, right? We're talking about crime or public safety. But there are also a lot of people that are trying to do the right thing, that are just normal people that end up in situations outside of their control completely, that require other people to have compassion for them, and not just compassion in feelings like we do a lot of here in Utah, we'll pray for you or whatever. I feel bad, but in ways that require us to structurally help people, because 99% of the time when someone is in a position where they need help from the government, from other people, from their community, it is so much more dictated by the structural injustices that exist in a long-standing country that does not provide actual safety net support for real people.
Yep.
That is why they're in this situation. It is through no fault of their own, not to mention generational poverty, generational racism, these structural things that exist that give people no real opportunity to not require help from other people. Also, everyone's been in a position in their life where they need help from someone, even if they made a quote unquote irresponsible decision. That does not mean that they deserve no compassion.
Yeah.
Also, compassion is not necessarily an action. It's also a feeling.
Yes.
I just don't feel bad for people that are in a worse position than me.
I think what is so confusing about this framing, we've already established that Trevor Lee doesn't have compassion, clearly. And so, great. Let's accept his framing. Compassion stops at the door of irresponsibility.
Okay.
Okay? Because, well, what if he's right,
Okay.
But let's think about this. Let's think about this bill and the responsibility part of this.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
I want to play some of the clips from the public testimony from this committee meeting, because there were a lot of really incredible stories, well-spoken people who came out, and I think they are the exact example of what this bill would do.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
My name is Neil Rickard. I'm the child nutrition advocate for Utahns Against Hunger. I want to speak to the impact on pantries. There's no infrastructure in most emergency food providers to separate this from donated foods in any absolute kind of way. The Utah Food Bank alone anticipates $500,000 in cost associated with compliance to HB 88.
My name is Madeline Chilcutt. My only sister lived on the streets of Salt Lake City for nearly 20 years. During that time, she struggled to keep hold of her legal identification card. U.S. citizens without ready proof of lawful status who are unhoused and or poverty-stricken will be a casualty of House Bill 88. Don't let misinformation or fear override your conscience. Don't withhold food, shelter, and medical care from the most needy among us while hiding behind legislation that was written from a false moral ground. Our response to those in need defines us as individuals and communities. This hateful legislation will negatively impact families for generations to come. It will be a stain on the good reputation of Utah citizens. It must be stopped.
My name is Dr. Sarah Shear. I'm a local pediatrician here to speak on behalf of the American Academy of Pediatrics Utah chapter in opposition to HB 88. This bill is a direct threat to the health and well-being of Utah's children and families. By requiring verification of immigration status for all public assistance, including public health services like vaccination and communicable disease testing and treatment, This bill risks worsening our outbreaks of measles, whooping cough,
already
and
have bad ones
flu
of those.
in communities across the state that affect U.S. citizens and undocumented people alike. Furthermore, denying undocumented mothers access to food assistance, specifically WIC, risks losing Utah taxpayers a return on investment of about $2 to $3 for every dollar spent in postnatal health outcomes. Ending Utah's CHIP program would strip coverage from more than 1,600 kids, replacing cost-effective, planned preventive services with costly, uncompensated care in Utah's already strained emergency rooms and hospitals. Pediatricians across the state care for children in our state every day. One young man with cancer who I have the privilege of caring for, who loves Elephant and Piggy and prays to God every day for a cure from his cancer, will not be able to continue his treatment without Utah CHIP. We urge you to vote no on HB 88 to protect all of Utah's kids and families.
My name is Cooper Cordova. I'm here representing myself. I just want to briefly correct the record by saying that being here as an undocumented immigrant itself is not a crime. It is a civil offense. 40% of undocumented people entered the country legally on a visa and then merely overstayed it. If this bill passes, it could open the state up to an enormous amount of liability. As has been mentioned, the opposition to the bill has largely been substantive on the basis of the risks that it would pose to public health, on the risk that it would pose to exposing the state to liability. And I find it very interesting that the original rationale for the bill, which was stated as being to incentivize undocumented people to self-deport, has not been mentioned once. It is a quote on the record that this bill would incentivize undocumented immigrants to self-deport.
My name's John Taylor. I represent myself. If you've been to Yellowstone lately, there's a sign that says, "Don't feed the bears." We used to feed the bears in Yellowstone, and it attracted a lot of extra bears, and they became lethargic. They didn't fend for themselves, and it became a nuisance. You would say the compassionate thing is to continue to feed the bears, but that's not the case. This bill is an attempt to create taxes as not a charity. Utah is a very charitable state, the most charitable in the union, and these people are supported, but our taxes are treated as a forced charity. We need to be stewards of these tax dollars and guard the rule of law.
Comparing immigrants of people of color to animals, I'd say that that's always going to go over well.
I am in support of this bill.
Definitely on the right side of history.
I'm the Reverend Laura Young, and I'm here on behalf of Face Hunger and Homelessness. Our laws and our policies, and the policies that flow from them, are moral documents. And I'm here on behalf of my colleagues. 35 of us have signed a letter to submit to you this afternoon to remind our elected leadership that every faith tradition requires its followers to make provisions for the poor and the stranger among us. The reason for this is not just because it is the quote-unquote right thing to do, but because it is very hard work and requires deep moral and philosophical reflection and a heart for compassion. And we need to be reminded of this as human beings, that we are humans first and identities second.
My name is Graydon Burgoyne, and I'm here to speak in opposition of House Bill 88. As a student of Harriman High School, I'm speaking because this bill will directly affect my friends and peers and their families. From a public health perspective, this is dangerous. When individuals avoid vaccinations, communicable disease testing, or basic medical care.
My name is Emmy Gardner. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Holy Cross Ministries. We are a faith-based nonprofit that has been in the state for 30 years. We serve over 4,700 clients a year. More than 85% of those clients are survivors of domestic violence, of sexual assault, or of trafficking. We oppose this bill because so many of the resources that are being asked to be removed are the pathways that allow us to help these clients on their healing journey.
Hi, my name is Jolene Grober. I am with the Box Elder Community Pantry. I want to let you know that this bill will impact our little pantry so much. We serve all of Box Elder County. We are a rural community. We are a farming community. Annually, this would cost our little pantry $20,000 or more to check every single person that walks through that door to serve.
My name is Yvette Romero Coronado, and I'm a longtime resident of West Valley City who works in this community as a social worker, mental health professional, and as a professor at a local university. I want to ask, what problem is this bill solving? Policy should be about improving people's lives, and this policy does the opposite. It prevents people in crisis from accessing critical services such as shelter, life-saving and sustaining medical care, and food. People will die. And I am not speaking in hypotheticals. This will happen. The next time I'm working with an undocumented client experiencing a suicidal ideation, where will they go for life-saving care? Where should I, as a mandated reporter, refer them? The next time I'm working with an undocumented child who's been subjected to sexual abuse.
Yeah, I think Representative Stoddard said in the meeting that this bill is cruel, and I think cruelty doesn't even begin to describe it. And those stories just barely scratch the surface, and it's horrific. Like, it's just awful.
Yeah, it's really awful. I mean, like, it's really hard to put into words, I guess, how to even react to some of these things, both on, like, both people that were for and against the bill. I think just hearing directly from these people that work in public health, that work in domestic violence prevention, that care for kids with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Kids with cancer. It's not their fault that they are in this country and that they have cancer.
Yep.
For mothers who are trying to feed their families. And then to hear these people talking about immigrants, directly comparing them to animals, I don't even know where to begin having this conversation. It's really, really awful. It's just awful. And it is so irresponsible, not only to the people of the state of Utah and to these families, but it's just so deeply offensive. There's nothing eloquent to say about this. Like, I have no thoughts that are helpful or interesting, other than it continues to shock me that these people on the committee could hear these things that were said and still vote to support this bill.
Yep.
Like, hearing about a kid that happens to be a person of color that prays every night for a cure to his cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention all of the stories of people that are just everyday people trying to make a better life for themselves or to help their family or to help feed their kids. And that they are not worth that because they are immigrants, because they're people of color. Like, they do not deserve our compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Not even compassion. They don't deserve humanity.
Yes, that's it. And to frame all of that within the argument of compassion stops at the door of irresponsibility is just like, it is getting to me so much, because it's like, not only are we not being compassionate for these people, like, it is irresponsible to pass this bill.
Yes.
It is going to actually have big problems for, if you only care about U.S. citizens, giant problems for our healthcare costs, for our
infectious diseases.
Yes, yeah, vaccines.
Letting kids starve. Like, letting people continue to be in domestic violence situations.
Mm-hmm.
Letting people die on the street because they're homeless and they happen to be undocumented and they can't get into a homeless shelter. Mm-hmm. That is irresponsible.
Yeah, and he's just admitting his lack of compassion. Like, he just is straight up admitting, like, it's okay to not care about people. That's fine.
Who are we having compassion for? And who is being irresponsible here?
And that's the question. It's okay to not be compassionate about people because
it's okay to let kids die.
It's okay to not care about other human beings if there is irresponsible behavior going on. And that is the irresponsibility that he's pointing to, is the fiscal side of this. It is the tax dollars. So this legislation was modeled after a couple of other states' legislation. I found this pretty interesting. So in 2011, Alabama passed a bill. This was HB 56 in Alabama. This was known as the most aggressive anti-immigration law in the country. Wow. And it went far further than this bill does. It included people couldn't be employed if they were an undocumented person. But the results were so clear. And so the impacts after this bill passed were that they saw a massive reduction in children that showed up for school.
Yep.
They had crops that rotted in their fields because nobody came to harvest them.
Oh, really? No American citizens wanted to do jobs that undocumented people are willing to do to make their lives better? Interesting. Crazy.
Their GDP losses were $10 billion. Which is 6% of the entire state's economy from this bill. And then, super fun fact, the CEOs of both Mercedes-Benz and Honda on separate occasions were traveling through Alabama and didn't have the proper documentation and were arrested.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So then in 2013, they settled in court because a lot of this was unconstitutional and they gutted most of the bill.
Thank God.
There's another similar bill in Arizona that was passed in 2010. It lost $253 million in tourism revenue and nearly 3,000 jobs in the first year. There was also giant boycotts and a massive outcry after that bill was passed. And the boycotts cost close to $1 billion in 6 months. Right. And then, the Supreme Court struck down 3 of the 4 main provisions. But the fascinating thing about the Arizona law that they passed, you know what the other repercussion was after they passed that in 2010? More people registered as Democrats.
No way!
Yeah, it led to an increase in voter registration of Democrats because people were so upset about this bill passing.
Wow, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, that is awful that they had to get to that point where people
Yeah.
that, but like, that is a very interesting.
Yeah.
stat.
And then the last one, in 2011, Georgia also passed a similar law, and it lost $140 million in crops in a single season. And they tried to replace the workers with probationers.
Okay.
And half of them didn't even make it through the first day.
Wow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, actually.
Yeah. So
we tried a bunch of this.
So we
15
tried
years
this.
ago,
Yeah.
and it didn't work 3 times. It was
Correct.
terrible for the state's economy, and I'm sure the untold impact of actual people's lives.
Yes.
Because far too often when we talk about immigration, especially when we're talking about people that are migrant workers, we talk so often about immigration as a driver of the economy and how important the jobs are and the labor are these people do. But we should absolutely stop doing that because
Yes.
people deserve humanity. They deserve to be looked at as human beings, not just as what they output and what they contribute to someone's economy. But if that is your framing, if that is what you believe, we know that this does not work. This will not help people and it will cost money to the state. And did we just forget that lesson from 15 years ago because now we're just bringing it back?
No, so what they actually did was they took all of the portions of this bill. So the Supreme Court has rejected most of these laws because they're unconstitutional and horrific. Yes. So they took all the portions that were rejected by the Supreme Court out and they've tailored it so that they think that they can pass this version of it.
So they drafted a bill of all the pieces from other states that did not get gutted by the courts.
I think. But it mostly came from Idaho. So Idaho passed a similar bill to this. Right. Currently, that is held up in the courts. And it is not currently law, but they have modeled it after that
Trevor
Idaho
Lee, who doesn't know what an injunction is, to be fair. Keep continuing.
So they've tried to make this law compliant. Is my understanding, because these ones in Alabama and Arizona and Georgia went much farther than what this bill does, but the same.
So if Idaho just passed this almost exact same law that is currently enjoined in the courts because people filed a lawsuit because they are saying this is likely unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm. So Trevor Lee rests his entire argument on this bill on one singular source. He brings to the committee a handout and he hands it out, which I will show to you in a minute. And this is from an organization called the Federation for American Immigration Reform, FAIR.
Okay.
And specifically from FAIR's 2023 report, The Fiscal Burden of Illegal Immigration on United States Taxpayers.
Excellent. Can't wait. Can't wait to hear about that.
So the top claim in this is that illegal immigration costs Utah families $931 million annually, which
that cannot possibly be correct, but go on.
Yes. Yeah. We'll get into the numbers in a second. Before we get into the numbers, if you do a very basic Google search of FAIR, you learn that in 2007, the Southern Poverty Law Center designated FAIR as a hate group with ties to white supremacist groups.
Well, okay, great. That tracks.
Yep.
God. Okay. Great. So we're citing our stats from a white supremacist organization.
Yes.
Classic.
Yes.
Seems like a best practice.
Yeah. And that's the only stat that is in this entire committee hearing. So, And since we like to cite our sources here and we like to do a little bit more research rather than just taking Trevor Lee and this organization at their word.
You should never do that. You should never do that.
I spent a little time, and by a little time, I mean so much time, looking into this organization. And boy, we are about to go on a journey.
Get ready,
so
everyone.
buckle up.
Pause now if you need to go to the bathroom and get a snack.
Yeah, we did. We took a little pause. So, I would like you, Gabby, to read this quote from the president of FAIR in 1997.
Oh, God. Okay. FAIR President Dan Stein himself stated in 1997, God. Oh, okay, I can do this. Immigrants don't come all church-loving, freedom-loving, God-fearing. Many of them hate America, hate everything that the United States stands for. Talk to some of these Central Americans.
Yeah. So this is the more recent president of FAIR.
So why, if you hate America, why would you come here? Why would you come here if you don't like America?
Why would you come here, work here, pay taxes here, contribute to Social Security that you aren't going to get benefits from?
Why would you want to raise your kids here if you hate it?
Well, I mean, it's not about that. It's about them not being church-loving, freedom-loving, God-fearing.
I am only one of those things. Most people are not all of those things. Okay.
Okay. Hold on. We're not even scratching the surface yet.
Okay, great.
Okay, so
tell me more about Dan
FAIR.
Stein.
No, so FAIR was founded by this man named John Tanton. Okay. John Tanton was a Michigan ophthalmologist. He is known as the architect of the anti-immigration and English-only movements. He is like the person who created these movements. His views evolved from environmentalism to eugenics.
As we all do.
Yeah.
Classic pipeline.
And this is so interesting to me.
I did not know a person did that. Okay.
Yeah. And fascinating. So ProPublica did a very interesting article that's a very long form piece that documented like his entire life journey, a lot of like the controversy surrounding it. It also documented how his ideas influenced Tucker Carlson, Richard Spencer, and Ann Coulter.
Whoa.
And the exact same ideological framework that influenced the perpetrators of the 2019 Christchurch mosque shootings and the El Paso attacks that were later.
Oh my God.
And so like his beliefs directly shaped a lot of conservative thinkers and these movements.
Far right conservative thinkers at that.
But it's not the direction you would think how it happened. Like it's not what you would think.
Okay.
Tanton served on the board of the Sierra Club for a long time.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Shout out.
And his primary concern was about the planet. He was very concerned about the environment.
Okay, samesies.
And he was one of the first people that said the words global warming and climate change. It was very early on. It was in 1989 that he was talking about climate change.
Okay. We started out so good.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he was primarily upset about population growth.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Huge contributor to climate change.
And that's what his concern was. So he was concerned about the environment, and then that made him concerned about population growth.
Okay.
So in 1975, like times were kind of weird because new births were no longer exceeding deaths for the first time in a really long time.
Okay.
Which means the population should have like stabilized.
Yeah.
But we had some immigration growth coming in. And this is what really started to like kick off Tanton's beliefs.
The great replacement stuff?
Yes.
Oh boy. Okay.
Gabby, can you read this quote from ProPublica? And it's going to be kind of long, this whole thing.
For Tanton, population became a euphemism for immigration. With time, immigrant would become a euphemism for non-white. Long before the Great Replacement theory,
Good job.
became a dominant strain among mainstream conservatives, nearly 7 out of 10 Republicans have said the theory had merit. Tanton, while not using those words, began to define the term. We've been thinking so much about how many come to this country, he would write. It's time to think about who. Tanton's belief that mass immigration would supplant white America had one particular focus. He saw it as a threat to the country's ecology and ultimately to the consensus among environmentalists about preserving the purity of that ecology. That's why he thought the immigration fight had to be taken up inside the conservation movement itself by what is viewed as America's most prominent environmental organization, an organization that would have the moral authority to bring difficult messages to the public. The Sierra Club may not want to touch the immigration issue, he wrote in a 1986 memo, but the immigration issue is going to touch the Sierra Club. I have several thoughts.
Yes.
First thought, heard about the country's ecology. Sure.
Yep.
If you're concerned about climate change, which is a global issue, why does it make a difference to you if someone is in the United States or if they're in another country? If population growth is the problem, why does it matter where those people are?
You know, that's a really good question.
I just as a thought. I mean, I don't know. I guess this is not a logic conversation, though. This is not a let's bring reason to these people. But, like, just fundamentally does not make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
So.
That's a really good point that I had not thought of at all yet.
It just doesn't make sense.
I think it had more to do with, like, purity of, like, the land and the landscape and, like, not, like, too much growth ruining the pureness. Yeah.
Sure.
So, like, it might not be environmentalism so much as, like, global climate change, but of, like, hey, that forest that I see from my window.
Here and stomp around on our nice
Yes.
land.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Is kind of how I was thinking of it. But I don't know. That I mean, that's a really good point.
No, that makes sense. It also is still illogical to me.
It doesn't.
Like,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he spent a lot of years in the Sierra Club trying to take it over from the inside. So he wanted to install.
The weirdest venue to do that.
I know.
Okay.
So he's trying to install allies on the board.
Classic.
And he funded a splinter faction called Sierrans for U.S. Population Stabilization.
Oh, okay.
And they were trying to create a member vote in 1998 on whether or not the Sierra Club should formally oppose immigration. So whether or not the Sierra Club should take a stance on immigration in a formal way of opposition.
What?
Yeah. So in 1998, they took that vote. 60% of their members said no.
Well, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but, I mean, like, he had planted 40% of the members
That's an insane number.
in this vote. Like, he had worked really hard to do this.
Why are we preserving the environment and our ecology if not for people to see it?
Yeah.
But
well,
whatever. Okay, I cannot try to bring logic
no,
to this.
you can't.
Keep going. I'm with
so that failed, and then it became a pretty national story. So 13 former Sierra Club presidents wrote an open letter calling the candidates bigots, and after it came out, one of the key operatives on the board had been circulating articles from a white nationalist website about Latinos spreading diseases and crime.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And then a bunch of Tanton's writings leaked to the press. Yeah.
The Tanton Files.
Oh,
Release the
wait,
Tanton
just
Files.
you wait, Gabby, just you
If
wait.
this man is in the Epstein Files. I'm
No,
gonna
no,
kill
no, no,
myself.
no, just you wait. Release the Tanton Files is going to come back.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Too many people have files. Don't be saying
Why are we
in your
having
email.
files?
I don't understand.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So in these leaked documents or leaked writings, Tanton Files #1, he asked whether white Americans would simply, quote, go quietly into the night as their power and control declined, warning of a Latin onslaught, and he questioned the educatability of Latinos and
famously people not willing to learn or work hard.
Oh yeah.
To like learn stuff because they're forced to assimilate.
Of course.
Go on. Yeah, no, great point. They barely speak one language. Why not accuse the people that have to speak two of being
uneducatable,
which is also a crazy word.
Yeah. So then he also stated his belief that, quote, for European American society and culture to persist requires a European American majority and a clear one at that.
That is extremely clear.
Yeah.
What culture? What are you trying to preserve?
Yep.
Also, as an aside, outside of that, what does this have to do with the Sierra Club? I don't understand this.
Isn't that the craziest
This is like
pivot of this?
The pre-internet version of becoming Red Pill.
Yes.
This
in
man
the
Red
Sierra
Pilled
Club.
himself in the Sierra Club, and now he's like whites only in America.
Insane. Not what I was expecting.
No.
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 This could have happened to Al Gore, but we kept him out of the pipeline. Okay, so the white people must outnumber the brown people.
So these memos leaked. It created...
They always have. So what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, it created a lot of backlash. So a head of one of his other organizations resigned and called it repugnant and not excusable. Walter Cronkite and Arnold Schwarzenegger quit the board of the Sierra Club.
Whoa! First of all, stacked board we got out of here. Wow. Even the Terminator was like, can't do it. Sorry,
can't do it. Not for me.
What are you talking about? As an actual white European, he was like, guys, this is too far.
Yeah.
I'm Republican.
So this is his origin story.
Okay.
But some other interesting facts that the Southern Poverty Law Center says about why they're a hate group. He corresponded with Holocaust deniers, former Klan members, and leading white nationalist thinkers.
They have those? Leading white nationalists?
Apparently. There's a whole thing about a back and forth about them writing to each other. It seems like a romance to me, but I don't know.
Just kiss already.
Exactly. And then in 1975, he wrote a paper titled The Case for Passive Eugenics. And then later in...
I feel like you usually try and hide it. You don't just call it eugenics.
Yeah.
You call it something more technical.
So he argued in that paper that childbearing should be restricted to those between the ages of 20 and 35. And then eventually...
We're right on the brink.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
no.
And then later in a letter to a famous eugenicist, Robert Graham, who was a millionaire businessman known for starting a sperm bank for geniuses.
Oh my God.
He was known for starting a sperm bank for geniuses.
Excellent. Do you think Trevor Lee's been there? Is that where he keeps getting all his things from? Self-proclaimed geniuses go into a sperm bank. Just flush it down the toilet.
Oh, wait. It gets better. You ready?
No.
So, in the paper, or in the letter to the sperm bank genius, he says, do we leave it to individuals to decide that they are the intelligent ones who should have more kids? More troublesome, what about the less intelligent who logically should have less?
I mean, look. Are there several people that I know in my life that are some of the dumbest people I know that have kids? Yes. Do I think that they should not be able to have children? No. But do I want white supremacists deciding who are the smart people? Also no. An insane thing to say. Eugenics is bad, guys. Remember that? But sure.
Between 1985 and 1994, FAIR received more than $1 million from a group called the Pioneer Fund.
Excellent, very Utah coded.
Yeah. Well, it was incorporated in 1937 by a man whose interest in eugenics was deepened by a visit to Nazi Germany.
Oh my God. What? We just learned the wrong lesson. Okay, great. Yeah.
And the original charter...
That Hitler guy.
Jesus inspired.
Inspiring is not a word that I would use.
And then this organization's original charter aimed to encourage propagation of those descended predominantly from white persons who settled in the original 13 states.
The Betsy Ross flag.
Yep.
Ross flag. What a throwback.
One of its very first projects, this Pioneer Fund, was the distribution of Nazi propaganda film about eugenics.
What?
Yeah.
They're pro-distributing Nazi propaganda. Like the flag from the flag bill.
Yeah.
Okay, keep it going. That's a crazy thing to do.
Yeah. They stopped receiving funding from this organization at some point in time, but still received quite a lot. And you read the quote from the president, Dan Stein, the more recent president, and he has boasted that FAIR leaders have testified before Congress now over 100 times.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
That is horrifying.
In 2004, FAIR, they, in their annual report, actually praised Tanton and praised him for his visionary qualities that have not waned one bit.
So he's not at the organization anymore. Is he dead?
No, he died, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably for the best.
And then...
But the organization, as recently as 20 years ago, was like, this guy still rules.
Yeah, he's still sweet, yeah.
This guy's still sick. He's
we stand by everything he's ever said.
100%. Let us give our information to Utah lawmakers.
Yeah. And then coming back to the Tanton files, 10 boxes of his personal archives remain sealed at the University of Michigan until 2035.
Oh my God.
Where they become unsealed. Under his conditions.
Oh my God.
So he gave a bunch of his writing to the University of Michigan under the conditions that certain of the boxes remain sealed until 2035, specifically.
Oh my God. Why?
Isn't that terrifying? I
these.
hate it.
Wow.
Isn't that so scary?
That is horrifying for many reasons. Also kind of a baller move. I'm going to do that. When
I know,
die,
it's pretty sweet. But there's going to be
just
nothing in there.
Yeah, just empty boxes. University of Utah, you cannot open this until like 15 years after I die.
Yeah.
It's very important that you do this for me. That's a crazy thing.
Isn't that insane?
If what we know based on what we just read is the stuff that's public facing, that's just very blatantly white supremacy, eugenics, hating immigrants.
Yeah.
What is in those boxes?
I don't know.
Unless it is a full confession that all he ever wanted to do was help climate change and this was all a prank.
Maybe
that
it was.
went terribly wrong and he feels so bad about it and then there's only horrific things in those boxes. Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that insane?
That's really, really wild, yeah. Wow, everyone stay tuned for 2035.
2035, we'll be here.
Do a part 2 in 2035.
We'll follow, don't worry.
In 9 years.
Okay, so that's the organization that supplied these numbers to Trevor Lee. I just would like to bring us back to the task at hand here.
Yes.
Which is that he is citing these facts from this organization.
Yes.
This one specifically.
A Utah lawmaker.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's just be really clear exactly who he's taking his information from.
Organization that has said they have not strayed one bit from a self-proclaimed white supremacist.
And eugenicist.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Not to forget about the eugenics. Anyway.
Gabby, do you want to pull up this infographic one-pager from FAIR that Trevor Lee is taking his information from?
Yes. Oh boy.
Okay, so on this graphic,
This is so Republican coded, this graphic design.
I know. Well, I also have so many comments on it. Okay, so on this graphic is fiscal burden of illegal immigration on Utah. How much does it cost taxpayers in the Beehive State?
And the file is called Utah 2023.
Yes.
So this is probably from...
It's from their 2023 report, yeah.
You want me to read the statistics?
Yeah, please.
Oh, I'd love to. Okay. Oh, God. Why are there so many different fonts?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. That's not relevant.
that one box has like 4 fonts.
Look at that. Why is the Utah so big?
I don't know.
It's fine. An estimated 137,000 illegal aliens live in Utah. Why is the text so close to the baby?
I don't...
Okay. There are roughly 48,000 U.S.-born children due to. Okay.
Those are U.S. citizens.
So what do you want from me? Illegal alien households add 54,188 students to local schools. Okay. And 48,000 of those are American citizens.
Yeah, correct.
Right. All right. I'm just
No, you're getting it. Right. You're getting it.
God, the spacing on the boxes. The average cost to Utahns is $5,033 per illegal alien! Exclamation mark.
Exclamation mark is really what got me there. Yeah. I feel like that's pretty good.
Also, 3 of the boxes have punctuation, 1 of them doesn't.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Illegal immigration cost Utah taxpayers $931.1 million in 2023. So they're saying in 1 year, over $900 million from illegal immigration. That amounts to a burden of $901 per Utah household annually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk numbers a little bit.
Please.
Okay. So this information, which let's take at face value, they are saying that there are 137,000 undocumented immigrants in Utah.
Okay. Yes.
That's, I'd say, pretty much in the range of correct.
That seems like a reasonable number. Utah has, what, just like 3 million or so people that live here?
3.8.
Yeah.
So Pew...
3.8, really?
I think so.
That's crazy.
Pew puts the estimate at 140,000. The Migration Policy Institute puts it 138,000.
Okay, sure.
The Institute for Taxation and Economic Policy puts it at 92,000. So we're in the correct range.
Somewhere between 90 and 150,000.
Yep.
Okay, sure. That seems right. I don't know. I have no idea, but
yeah. So those numbers,
multiple stats.
Those make sense to you, right?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything, but
well, so in committee, Trevor Lee said that there were 500,000 undocumented immigrants in the state of Utah.
Where did we get that from?
Unclear.
Trevor, buddy.
It doesn't appear in the report.
Someone has cited that number in a different point this session. And I don't know if it's just them, like, talking about it and they just, like, think it's 500,000 or something.
How do we... Okay.
But, like, if even the white supremacist organization is saying 137,000, how does Trevor Lee get to 500,000?
Yeah, that would be 15% of Utah.
15 out of 100 people in Utah.
Yeah.
Are undocumented immigrants.
So I don't know if they're saying, if they maybe mean immigrants, like they don't know the difference between the undocumented and the documented immigrant.
We could potentially, this doesn't make any sense either, I feel like, numbers wise, but like we also have, it's like 137,000 undocumented people, plus people on visas, plus people like that are refugees or like international students, but there's no way that would even add up to 500,000.
Maybe.
But also,
that might make sense. I don't know.
I don't know, but still, to say that there's 500,000 undocumented people living in Utah is... Show me, Trevor, if you're watching this, show me where the numbers are.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that in any neighborhood, anyone would be like, yes, 1 out of every 15 people I know are undocumented.
No. And if
they were, that would be fine by me.
Well, and also, he's taking all the rest of his data from this one report. And so the report saying 137,000, I don't know why we're now citing 500,000 in committee, and nobody is checking that. Also, do want to note, in a remarkable moment of candor for FAIR, in their report, in their methodology section, they say that their population estimate is often higher than, quote, most mainstream immigration research organizations.
Hey, there you go.
The explanation is that mainstream researchers are ideologically compromised and deliberately undercounting.
What peer-reviewed reports are offered for your claims? Also, you are ideologically compromised because you are a blatantly white supremacist eugenics-facing organization.
Yeah.
What incentive is there to miscount?
Okay.
Again.
But, Gabby, we need to be fiscally responsible with Utah taxpayer dollars. That's the entire argument here, right?
Yeah.
Trevor Lee is saying that undocumented immigrants cost the state $931 million.
Yes.
If we take all of his numbers, which, okay. So, second point here. If you look closer at this document, $653.5 million in education.
Yeah.
That's 70% of it.
Yeah.
That is because if you look at their above part, they're roughly 48,000 U.S. born children due to.
Yeah.
Those are the same children that they are talking about American citizens.
Okay, I'm sorry. So they're saying that these 48,000 children that are born from immigrant parents that live in Utah.
Yes.
That is what they're calculating. They're using that number to calculate how much they are costing
the education
budget.
Yes.
So these U.S. citizens that are going to school here, because that is their right as an American, are costing us $650 million.
Yeah.
That is not cost of illegal immigration.
No.
Okay. Unless you think that, like, if you are born here, but your parents, which is probably what they do think, that if their parents are not citizens, and you're born here, you should not be able to be a citizen and use this, because you don't count.
Yeah, you don't count.
That's what
for some reason.
Because their heritage is not correct.
Right.
How are we going to keep our ratio correct of having a shit ton of white people to ruin this country?
Give the women parking spots.
So what you're trying to tell me is that the lesson of everyone can turn it off after this, that giving pregnant women handicap parking passes is eugenics.
Correct.
Perfect.
We're getting there.
Fucking hell.
Okay. So obviously the methodology here.
We're taking out. So now, if we take out the
we're
cost
subtracting.
that U.S. children are costing the Utah system for education, we're down to like $300 million.
Correct. Yeah. So the Cato Institute published an entire takedown piece of not the 2023 report, but like a 2017 report that they put out. And their piece that quote says, FAIR's report reaches conclusion by vastly overstating the cost of illegal immigration, undercounting the tax revenue they generate, inflating the number of illegal immigrants, counting millions of U.S. citizens as illegal immigrants, and by concocting a method of estimating the fiscal cost that is rejected by all economists who work on this subject. Incredible.
There's something real special about the academic and judicial takedown.
Incredible.
They're so polite, but so
by
mean.
all economists who work on this subject.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, that seems right.
So my third data issue here. Gabby, can you pull out your calculator on your phone?
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay. Do you see this here cost? The average cost to Utahns is $5,033 per illegal alien. Okay. But we're saying that the overall cost of all of these illegal aliens is $931 million. So
Allegedly.
Can you take that overall cost of $931 million? It's a lot of zeros. I believe in you, though.
6 zeros.
Okay. And then divide that by taking their numbers of the number of undocumented immigrants at 137,000.
6,795.
Yeah. So how do they get the 5,033 number? Guess what? They're adding 137,000 plus the 48,000 U.S.-born citizen children.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's not that 137,000 illegal aliens, quote unquote, that live in Utah are costing you money. It's them and their children.
And their children.
So this is actually not about illegal immigrants. This is about brown people being in America and
Yeah.
the burden that they and their children's children will not only put on our economy,
Correct.
but on the dismantling of quote unquote European American white culture.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I am more than happy to contribute my $901 from this household.
Okay. So the fourth problem here, this $901 per household, completely leaves off the other side of the ledger. Actually, all of this does. Representative Stoddard in the committee meeting pointed out that the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, like a nonpartisan research organization that uses census data, found that undocumented residents pay $235.1 million in state and local taxes in 2022 alone.
Okay.
So that is an effective tax rate of 8.3%, which is higher than what the top 1% of earners pay in 40 states.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane also, but also goes to the fact that a lot of, like, the people that are here that are undocumented are some of the lowest income earners that we have in the state because they are disproportionately disenfranchised from getting jobs, from moving up economically in the world. So many different things, but okay. But yeah, like, of course they're contributing more than... They have a higher tax rate. That makes a lot of sense to me. Especially in a state like Utah where we have a regressive tax code.
So if we reverse engineer this math for a second.
Okay, so if we have, so they say that $931.1 million a year. Okay, we're going to subtract their $653 million for education because those are U.S. citizen children that are being educated.
Yep. And then let's add back in the $235.1 million in state and local taxes.
Subtract that? Not add back in, but... Okay, so that brings us down to $277 million.
That they cost the state.
That they allegedly cost the state. And then we're going to subtract the economic increase that these folks are allegedly bringing to Utah, which is what now?
$235.1 million.
Okay, that brings us to $42 million.
Great.
They also have on here that they're additionally costing us $98.8 million in, quote, police, legal, and corrections. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, this is something I would like to talk about because this is probably just an average number of citizens or people's cost in the correctional system, which is just expensive. But research is very consistent, and it has been for decades, that immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, commit crimes at a lower rate than native-born Americans.
Yes. People that are undocumented have zero incentive to commit crimes.
Yeah.
Even if you listen to this hateful man that's founded the organization and you really think that immigrants hate America, they have no incentive to commit crimes because they will be deported.
Yes.
They will be deported. And every person that's undocumented is so much more aware of the law, what they can and can't do. They are far less likely to ever have even an infraction because they know that the cost for them is not a citation or a ticket or a fine or going to jail.
Being kicked out of your house
being
and your
deported.
country. Yeah.
Yeah. If you think about it for one single second, there is no incentive for immigrants to commit crimes. And like obviously, white people in the United States commit crimes at a much higher rate than immigrant communities.
Yes.
Or even black and brown communities that are citizens.
Yeah.
But, okay, sure.
The Cato Institute specifically said that non-citizens are 45% less likely to be incarcerated than native-born citizens.
Yeah,
you are statistically safer in a community with more immigrants in it, by the way.
That's a beautiful statistic.
Yeah.
What a good fact to remind people of.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, so, sorry, we're at how much, 46?
We are at 42.5 million.
Okay, great. So here's some other stuff.
Yeah.
So undocumented immigrants nationally pay, this is nationally, so you can't really add this into our thing, but yeah, for our thing. Nationally pay $25.7 billion into Social Security in 2022.
Wow.
They cannot use those Social Security benefits. They paid $25 billion into benefits that are only going to American citizens, not to them.
Yeah.
They also paid $6.4 billion into Medicare.
Yep.
Also not something that they can cash in on. So they are subsidizing the retirement of American citizens that they are paying into and that somebody else is collecting.
Well, and then not to mention, so now we know that immigrants do not cost, they're very likely to not cost $98.8 million per year in police, legal, and corrections.
Yeah.
If you take that out of your equation, we are now in the green as far as money goes. And then there's a whole section here that just says, plus healthcare, public assistance, and general government service expenses, which does not have a line item on it.
And that's what Trevor Lee's bill is trying to get rid of.
They are somehow estimating at like $200 million a year, which is also like, I guess, a thing that they don't want to put on here. But that is the entire piece of what this bill is supposed to do, is to get rid of those healthcare and public assistance things, which is evidently from this, or they would have put it on here, even for these white supremacists, saying the cheapest thing that we can offer undocumented people.
Yes.
Because this is all fake.
Yep.
And it's insane. And it does not cost the state any money.
Anything.
No.
Yeah.
For a budget that is entirely run on tax dollars, which the state is, they are not losing any money offering these current services that they provide to undocumented people, let alone what they should be offering to undocumented people that live here.
Yep. The fiscally responsible thing to do.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Let's deport U.S. citizens with parents that are undocumented so we can save $600 million on education every year.
Yep.
Which I'm sure is inflated.
Okay, so that is the journey of this bill. It is both not compassionate and not responsible.
No.
And so I do want to go back to where we started here, that compassion stops at the door of irresponsibility, in the words of Trevor Lee. And
quoting somebody else for some reason.
And talk about what is actually behind that door of irresponsibility. Because, like, we've been through it. We've seen it. And what I see is a sad, pathetic, small, weak legislator who walked into a committee who cited 500,000 undocumented immigrants in Utah, even though that doesn't exist from any source, and inflated his own numbers. With a report from an organization whose founder spent his career corresponding with Holocaust deniers and white nationalists, whose archives are literally sealed from public view until 2035, and whose funding comes from a foundation that distributed Nazi propaganda films. He was a racist, eugenicist, and environmentalist, maybe, at best. And that report was presented as the fiscal analysis for this bill. And the math about educating American citizen children as an immigrant expense, when those same American children grow up and pay taxes and they just count them as an expense and disappear any returns.
Even though they are legally, they are constitutionally allowed the same rights as any other child born in the United States.
Correct. There is a lawsuit provision in the bill behind this door that lets any Utah taxpayer sue any government employee who doesn't check someone's papers before handing them a meal. There's Idaho. that has done it. They've tried it, and they're losing in court and spending their taxpayer dollars to fight this. We have Alabama, who lost $10 billion in GDP, Arizona, who lost $1 billion in tourism revenue, in Georgia, where the crops rotted in the fields because nobody could pick them. And to end all of that, all of the numbers and the sources and the court cases and the history is a boy with cancer who loves Elephant and Piggy and books and prays every day for a cure. And the 4,700 survivors of trafficking and domestic violence whose pathway is out of these situations this bill closes, and a social worker who went to the Capitol and asked them a simple question: where do I send an undocumented child who's been sexually abused, and came home without an answer? So compassion, Trevor, doesn't stop where irresponsibility begins. It's how responsible people govern.
That is the truth. Right there. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like, I think a lot of the legislators that are opposed to this bill said it better than I can, but to paraphrase, why does government exist if not to help the most vulnerable people in our society?
Mm-hmm.
Who apparently we shouldn't have compassion for. I don't know what to say. I'm just mad.
I know.
It is awful. I think because we only have 45 days in our legislative session, things move really quickly, and I think that has led to, I think that and the fact that we only recently have had really extreme people in our legislature, that members of these committees, I think, take it in good faith when they're presented with information, and we can't blame them for that in a lot of ways. Like, one, because this has historically been accurate, real information from real sources that are not hate groups.
Yep.
But also because where would they have the time to be able to look into all these things and to fact check that?
No, they're tracking 900 bills.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't blame them for not knowing this information, but it is evident to me based on this that, like, there should be more vetting of what is stated as fact. If I went up there as someone who wanted to testify publicly and I lied, they would call you out.
Yep.
They would be very angry. They would, like, cut off your testimony. They would correct you in the moment. And because this is someone that is in office, unfortunately, he has the leeway to present this as factual information when, if you take even one look at the numbers, it's not true. And even outside of that, this is not even about the numbers for most people.
No.
I think, as Andrew Stoddard said in the committee hearing, like, if the cost actually is $900 per household per year, like, I'm happy to pay my $900 so that, like, kids don't have to have cancer without care.
Yep.
And that women don't have to stay in domestic violence situations.
Yep.
But outside of that, this is a bill that is being led by and backed by and supported by groups that are literally white supremacist organizations, that are hate groups, that are trying to impart eugenics in America. Like, this is not that complicated when you understand where this is coming from. And again, because I continue to be optimistic in my heart, I want to think that if this information was presented to these legislators, they would understand that this is not something that is actually helpful, outside of the fact that it is extremely economically irresponsible for the state.
Yep. I would hope so too.
One could hope.
Send this to your legislators.
Yeah. Make them listen to this whole podcast.
Sure they will.
I'm sure they will. Yeah, and I don't know. I guess just, like, the other thing on top of that is, I think I don't want to understate, I think, what it is like, not that I understand this, but what it would be like to be someone who is an immigrant, who is undocumented, who has family that are immigrants, and even having to see that someone like this that is able to present this information in this way is such a, not disrespectful, is, like, such a, not even the right word.
No.
But just, like, the erasure of your humanity, of your legitimacy, trying to say that immigrants are only something to look at on a ledger and not as human beings that exist in this country that are trying to do the same thing that everybody else in this country is trying to do. Like, the impact that would have just seeing that, but let alone having to hear from this person over and over and over again talk about how illegitimate you are as a member of your community, or in your life. And not to mention the members of the public testimony portion that
called them
feel
animals.
empowered
Yeah.
to be able to say the things out loud that they have felt and thought for, I'm sure, quite a long time, because someone like Trevor Lee is giving them an opening to justify their bigotry and their hatred of immigrants.
Yep.
That's what I have to say about
That's
and I hate it here. I don't know. I think the hope here is that there are so many people that are doing the really good work, or even if they're not doing work, that care, that do believe that we should have not only compassion but support and excitement and celebration for people that want to come to this godforsaken country.
Yep.
That are not willing to let these types of conversations and this type of legislation go unnoticed and without having a conversation about what that actually looks like. And there are really amazing organizations doing the same thing. You know, the ACLU and Voices for Utah Children and all of the immigrant defense funds and so many other organizations that are doing everything they can to fight back against this really awful, hateful legislation.
I will say Voices for Utah Children does have a web page on this bill and a very nice one sheet that you can use if you would like to talk to your legislators or you want some actual statistics and facts. They have some really good resources that we can link. Well, that's all I got.
I guess the worst news of the day is that not only are we not going to be able to get parking passes if we get pregnant, is that we are also on the tail end of the eugenics preferred age range to have children in the first place.
And we're not going to get the Tanton files until 2035.
Yes.
We'll see you all in 2035.